Right, let's get into it. The Gabby Petito case. It's a tragedy that absolutely captivated the entire world back in the fall of 2021. But today, we're going to do more than just retrace the steps of that devastating cross-country road trip. In this explainer, we're really going to unpack the systemic failures left in its wake. The goal here is to take this heartbreaking timeline and transform it into a real understanding of what went wrong, and more importantly, how we can all recognize the signs to prevent something like this from ever happening again.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the cross-country disappearance itself, examine that infamous Moab traffic stop, discuss the tragic discovery, look at the notebook confession, review the resulting lawsuits and police overhauls, and finally, talk about the legacy of awareness.
All right, part 1, the cross-country disappearance.
To start, let's just look at how incredibly fast everything happened. In July of 2021, Gabby Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie left New York. They were super excited, documenting their whole van life journey for YouTube and Instagram. But things took a really dark turn. On August 12th, there's an ominous traffic stop in Moab, Utah. Less than 2 weeks later, on August 25th, Gabby's social media goes totally silent. And then we hit the most alarming point on this timeline, September 1st. Brian Laundrie drives their white camper van back to his parents' house in Florida, completely alone.
As soon as Brian got back to Florida, a massive wall of silence went up. His family flat out refused to cooperate with the authorities, and they wouldn't even speak to Gabby's family. So you can imagine the panic. After days of zero communication, Gabby's desperate mother officially filed a missing persons report in New York on September 11th. And that's really what triggered the massive nationwide search and had the whole country asking, what on earth happened on that road trip?
Let's move to part 2, the Moab traffic stop.
This specific incident is absolutely crucial to understanding the systemic failures here. Look at the stark contrast between what was reported and what was actually concluded by the police. On one side, you literally have a 911 caller explicitly stating they saw a gentleman slapping the girl and that he proceeded to hit her. But then, after the police pull the van over and do their interviews, the responding officers actually categorize Gabby as the primary aggressor. How does that even happen?
Well, when the officers pulled them over, Gabby was clearly distraught. She was crying in the back of the cruiser, she took the blame, admitting to slapping Brian first, and she talked a lot about her intense anxiety and OCD. Brian, meanwhile, completely downplayed the whole thing. He claimed he just pushed her away to take a breather and pointed out some scratches on his face. So, despite a 911 call reporting a man striking a woman, and despite visible injuries and extreme emotional distress, the officers made the fateful call to just separate them for the night. Brian went to a hotel, Gabby stayed in the van. No domestic violence citations were issued at all.
Which brings us to part 3, a tragic discovery.
Now, searching the vast American West is basically looking for a needle in a haystack. But in just an unbelievable twist of fate, a family from Florida, the Bethunes, were reviewing some vacation footage from their GoPro, and they realized they had accidentally recorded a white camper van with Florida plates parked in this desolate Wyoming camping spot called Spread Creek on August 27th. They handed that video straight to the FBI.
And that one video was a total game changer. Guided directly by that GoPro footage, authorities zeroed in on that specific area. Tragically, on September 19th, near Grand Teton National Park, the FBI found human remains. A Wyoming coroner confirmed the devastating reality. It was Gabby. Her death was ruled a homicide by strangulation, and the coroner estimated she had been left out there for roughly 3 to 4 weeks.
Now for part 4, the notebook confession. While the country mourned Gabby, the manhunt for Brian was completely stalled by deep floodwaters in a massive Florida reserve. Finally, on October 20th, as the water started to drop, investigators found a dry bag and a notebook. And right near there, they found skeletal remains. Dental records confirmed it was Brian Laundrie who had taken his own life. But it was that notebook, which had literally been underwater for 5 weeks, that held the answers everyone was looking for. In his own handwriting, Brian confessed, but listen to how he framed it. He coldly rationalized the murder by claiming he ended her life because she had allegedly injured herself in a fall in Wyoming. He wrote that he thought it was merciful, saying he took away her pain, but then panicked. He was basically trying to justify the absolute unjustifiable.
Let's look at the fallout in part 5, lawsuits and police reviews.
Obviously, with Brian dead, the focus totally shifted to institutional accountability. People were rightfully asking questions about that Moab traffic stop. An independent law enforcement review took a hard look at the Moab City Police Department.
and they concluded that the officers made what they called unintentional mistakes. The review pointed out that the police policies and their training simply fell way short of what that highly volatile situation actually required.
But the review didn't just point fingers, it demanded action. It recommended massive overhauls for the department. We're talking mandatory, enhanced domestic violence training, a much deeper dive into state abuse laws, and even software and report review upgrades. But maybe the biggest takeaway? They outlined plans to bring in a dedicated, trained domestic violence specialist to oversee future incidents, just to make absolutely sure these subtle dynamics of abuse are never missed again.
Gabby's parents were also determined to find personal accountability. They filed multiple lawsuits, including a wrongful death suit against Brian's parents, alleging they actually knew their son had confessed while everyone was still frantically searching for Gabby. They ended up reaching a $3 million settlement. But here's the truly amazing part. The Petito family made sure every single dollar of that money went straight into the Gabby Petito Foundation. They took their unimaginable grief and turned it into a real tool for change.
And that brings us to a really vital question for all of us viewing this explainer today. How do we actually recognize the subtle, dangerous signs of domestic abuse before it's too late?
Let's close this out with Part 6, A Legacy of Awareness. The Foundation makes a point to remind us that abusers rarely just jump straight to physical violence. The warning signs are usually a lot more insidious. We're talking about isolating a partner from their friends and family, showing extreme jealousy, or demanding total control over finances and social media. If you see a sudden drop in a loved one's confidence or unexplained behavior changes, those are massive red flags. The bottom line from the Foundation is this: trust your gut. If something feels off about a relationship, it usually is. And if you or someone you know is actually in danger, you need a strategy. The Foundation highly recommends creating a concrete safety plan. It's basically 5 steps. Figure out a safe physical place to go during a crisis, plan exactly how you'll leave quickly, keep your essential documents accessible, set up secret code words with trusted friends, and securely document the abuse. Having a practical plan like this in your back pocket can literally save a life when every second counts. I want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to chew on today. We've just walked through the timeline, we've seen the systemic oversights, and we know the tragic outcome. But now we're armed with knowledge. So, equipped with these very real warning signs, how will you stay vigilant and protect the people in your own life? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Stay observant, stay safe, and take care of each other out there.